Hi, I'm Vasishtha. I've been studying astroscience for the last 30 years. Since it has become very important because of the coronavirus spreading throughout the world, so I thought of studying the planetary combinations since 1300 until now. And amazingly, how I found out that there were a lot of similar combinations of planets, especially the Rahu-Ketu. Rahu-Ketu are the nodes, like the North Pole and the South Pole. They are the viruses. They are infection. Let me tell you something about astrology before we begin. Astrology is the science which has been read since thousands of years. The study involves on every human being, objects, seasons, rains, earthquakes, diseases, and all worldly affairs. When we talk of worldly affairs, we have to take in consideration about Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus as well. And at times I have seen Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus conjunctions actually made these viruses created and spread all over the world. The major problems when these two nodes, Rahu and Ketu, were either exalted or debilitated. So now we start with something like 1347 to 1348, where the European epidemic killed 20 to 30 million people. That time was like 1/3 of European population. So if we see in this chart of 1347, Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter here were degree-minute conjunct. Degree-minute conjunct, like Jupiter was infected by Pluto and Uranus and created virus that time. And it actually took 20 to 30 million people which got affected. And also the same time, these nodes, Rahu and Ketu, were expecting their debilitated signs, that is Taurus and Scorpio. So now we talk about smallpox, which ravaged in Mexico, killing 150,000 people. That was between 1517 to 1520. So what the planetary positions were? So if we see in 1517, in the same 9 sign, what we precisely is become very important. First, in November 17 and beginning of December 18, Saturn and Ketu were degree-minute conjunct, and Pluto, which remains in one house for 20 years, was also in the Sagittarius. Then, in December 1518, Saturn and Pluto were again in the last degrees of Sagittarius sign, Virgotam. So this is become very important to see that in Sagittarius sign, when any planet, strong planet comes and become Virgotam in the last sign, it is very important to note that the viruses have spread in the same degree. Then also in 1519, when we can see the Pluto becoming Virgotam and Saturn becoming Virgotam in the last degrees of Sagittarius sign. So here if we see any time when these planets are Virgotam, and at the same time Rahu is also exalted in Taurus sign and Ketu is exalted in Scorpio sign. So these nodes, when they are Virgotam and there is a strong conjunction of major planets, and that too in Sagittarius sign, it actually creates a bigger virus which is known as pandemic. In 1529, measles pandemic outbreak took place in Cuba, where 2/3 of the natives were killed. What was special at that time? What was special about the planets placed? One was Rahu debilitated in 8 sign, Ketu debilitated in 2 sign. Apart from that, Saturn, Ketu, and Mercury and Sun, they were degree-minute conjunct in 2 signs. So having Rahu and Ketu debilitated or exalted, and one of the major planets getting degree-minute conjunct creates such type of pandemics. 1665 to 1666. It was the Great Plague of London, which killed almost 100,000 people in London. So when we see the planetary positions, first in 1964, there was conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune, and as you see, it was in the same Sagittarius last sign. Sagittarius last sign, they were conjunct with each other. Neptune means some gas, some poison, some kind of virus, Jupiter getting affected. So it is all about this conjunction which happened in Sagittarius. When we come to next year, what happened more? Then we can see again, it continued to Neptune and Jupiter, which is November 64. And then when we see January 65, there was a Jupiter and Ketu conjunction together. So Ketu means infection, Jupiter getting infected. So this was the cause of the plague. More studies about this can bring more better results. But yes, what we have studied at the moment gives a lot of light. Apart from that, when we see Rahu is aspecting its debilitating sign, Scorpio, and Ketu aspecting its debilitating sign, Taurus, at the same time. So this led to the Great Plague of London. Astrologically, what we see. 1854 to 1855, throughout Spain, cholera caused more than 236,000 deaths and claimed 200,000 lives in Mexico. Now, what were the conjunctions? The conjunctions were Rahu and Ketu. Again, they were exalted. They were exalted, means very powerful. And again, if you see, these two nodes in major viruses are either exalted or tempered. How they add up when there is a strong conjunction of other planets like Jupiter in Sagittarius last degrees, Pluto in last degrees, Pluto or Saturn or Jupiter getting conjunct with each other, or Uranus and Neptune getting conjunct with each other. So they give a backup of spreading these viruses or pandemic happening in a bigger way. So now in April 1854, we see Rahu and Saturn together and both being exalted. What happens next? Because it continues, it is spreading. Another thing that we see in September 1855, Rahu and Pluto, they were degree minute conjunct. So it's not normal, or it's not always, because Pluto takes 240 years to complete the zodiac. So Rahu and Pluto getting together and Rahu and Ketu getting exalted. So they are spreading this kind of viruses. Further to add it, October 1854, Jupiter in its own sign, Sagittarius sign, again Vargottam in the last degrees, like getting more strength to spread, more strength to create problem in the last degrees, because Jupiter has already been infected, by the way. So Jupiter we find in the last degrees of Sagittarius. So that's very important to see. Whenever any major planet is Vargottam, means from 26.40 to 30 degrees in Sagittarius sign, it creates havoc. Very well known Spanish flu, 1918 to 1919. Spanish flu infected 1/3 of the world population. That means it infected 500 million people and killed more than 50 million people. What were the planets happening at the time? So in the beginning of January 1918, before Ketu became debilitated in two signs, there was a pure conjunction of Pluto and Ketu in Gemini and Rahu and Mercury, retrograde Mercury, in the ninth sign. Going forward, when we go to August 1918, we see Pluto and Jupiter again degree minute conjunct. Rahu being debilitated and Ketu being debilitated. Ketu has already came in two sign, which is debilitated sign Taurus, and Rahu in Scorpio, which is debilitated sign of Rahu. And at the same time, Pluto and Jupiter degree minute conjunction means spreading the infection. 1964 to 1965. where cholera pandemic in South Asia and parts of Russia. Rahu and Ketu, if you see at that same time, were exalted in Taurus and Scorpio sign. Same 2 and 8 sign. Exalted in 2 sign and Ketu exalted in Scorpio sign. Apart from that, when we talk of a strong conjunction, like what happened in 1347, 1348, Pluto and Uranus getting degree minute conjunct at the same time when they are exalted. So this was the cause of the spread. And same, they were likely the same positioning of the planet. And then we come to another, like June 1965, the same period when we can see Rahu Ketu exalted and Rahu getting degree minute conjunct with Jupiter. Means again infecting Jupiter to spread this virus. So this is how things take. 1968, it was a well-known Hong Kong flu. This pandemic killed about 1 million people worldwide. May 1968, Saturn and Rahu got conjunct with each other here. And Pluto and Uranus were quite close. Going forward in the same time, when we see it came to a conjunction of again Pluto and Jupiter together. And in Navansh, in the last signs when we see, it is again 9 sign, the Sagittarius sign. When Jupiter and Pluto fall, when we see in the Navansh, the subsection, it goes into Sagittarius. So this is a big creation of these problems. Reading further, in the same time, then again, one by one, conjunction of Jupiter, Uranus and Ketu. Degree minute conjunct. So by all these conjunctions, when we can see, there was a havoc, there was a problem, there was pandemic, and a lot of people got affected. SARS-CoV epidemic occurred in 2002. Now again the same combinations, mind it, Rahu and Ketu exalted in Taurus and Scorpio sign. Now Rahu and Ketu can be exalted or debilitated after 9 years or 18 years. So it's a process of getting exalted after 18 years, but after 9 years it gets debilitated. But why only then when these viruses spread? It can go on if there is not a bigger conjunction on the side. But here in 2002 what we see is Rahu and Saturn in Taurus sign, degree minute conjunct with each other. At the same time, Pluto and Ketu degree minute conjunct with exalted Pluto, infecting, poison, unknown problems, unknown disease. And when we see Rahu and Saturn together, so these combinations, when we see in the outer circle, they were degree minute conjunct leading to SARS. That was very scary in that time. Now, very important, why we have been studying all this? Because of the coronavirus. So what started in the beginning of October 2019 or end of September? What were the planetary positions? That is very important to know. 30th September, this is the chart of 30th September 2019. When we see, again we are actually looking at 9 sign very carefully. The Sagittarius sign, where we have observed many conjunctions which led to spread of various viruses, various pandemics. Saturn and Ketu got degree minute conjunct in Sagittarius sign in September, October 2019. Ongoing process. Now planets are moving. What happened on the 4th of January 20? In the same house, Jupiter and Ketu with Mercury, they were degree minute conjunct in 9 sign. And at the same time, Saturn moved on to be Vargotam, that's in the last degrees, with Pluto in 9 sign. You can see it here, Pluto and Saturn together, and Jupiter, Ketu, Mercury and Sun together. So this is not a small thing happening. Like the major planets getting degree minute conjunct and in Sagittarius sign, where we have seen lot of disturbances in the past. Moving on further, we can see Uranus and Venus together in the beginning of March and Pluto getting Vargotam, but now Pluto is moving out, but Jupiter is caving in. So Jupiter is going to be Vargotam again in the same house, and here you see Jupiter degree minute conjunct with Pluto in the same last Sagittarius sign. So it is not a coincidence. When these strong conjunctions have happened in the last degree of Sagittarius. Further to add on, when we see that they go out of this house, then they turn back. How they turn back? I will give you the dates, what I have taken out. Jupiter Ketu conjunction, which happened like a degree-minute conjunction, was from the 4th of January to the 22nd of January. They were degree-minute conjunct, means Jupiter was completely infected by this poisonous planet which creates these type of viruses. Exit of Jupiter from the Sagittarius house will be on the 30th of March, meaning the maximum infection which Jupiter can give in Sagittarius, because it carried this infection from Ketu. This is going to lie down after the 30th of March. Jupiter, Pluto, both will go out of the Sagittarius sign. But now what is happening next? Pluto enters Sagittarius again in the Virgottam position on 28th June retrograde, and Jupiter on the 30th of June. So now these two planets are again together, entering, moving back on the 30th of June. And mind it, they are Virgottam. Pluto remains Virgottam and becomes direct on the 4th of October, and it remains Virgottam. But as it goes direct, that means again there is a problem. Jupiter enters again on 30th of October in Sagittarius and with Virgottam position and in conjunction with Pluto. So this area has to be seen specifically, and it has to be monitored very closely. Jupiter will remain here till 21st of November, starting from 30th October to 21st of November. And what does it mean? It means this virus can hit back very badly in this time. Pluto leaves Sagittarius sign on 31st December 2020. So till 31st of December, the whole world has to be very, very careful. May God help us. May some kind of vaccine comes out. May some kind of remedies by holistic means comes out. And Rahu and Ketu, at the same time, this conjunction, mind it, Rahu and Ketu also enters their exalted sign on 20th of September 2020. And they will remain here for next 18 months. So what's happening? Rahu and Ketu are exalted. Pluto and Jupiter, as we have seen in the past, they will be Virgottam, which is very, very powerful in the same degree. Maybe some scientists create a vaccine, but as we see, the spread of these viruses and the pandemics in the past have taken huge toll. May God help everybody. In the meantime, holistically, what I am studying, maybe I am trying to take out some kind of cure out of all these conjunctions, how they have affected, what can we advise to combat this virus. I am working on it. Till that time, God bless you all. Maybe if I am through, if I get some remedy, test, experiment it, come back to you in the next video. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.